So, good morning or good night, good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another interview of the Chill Dude on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector, and today we got a very death metal band for you. The band is called Contusion. The album is called Insatiable Lust for Death, which is out tomorrow because we're recording this on the evening of the release. But people have heard it because it was streaming today. So I have here Mark, who plays almost every instrument on the album except the drums. So, Mark, how are you tonight?
What's up, man? How's it going?
Good, just two people chilling in their couches.
Just chilling on my couch, you know?
Yeah, so contusion, that's a very good name for the sound that you have. Because the music hits you, it's like brutal old school death metal. And this is your like debut LP. You had an EP, but this is the full length. It's out with Profound Lore. So for people who haven't heard Contusion, or tell us a little bit about the background of the band.
Contusion is a death metal band, and like you said, we're releasing our debut album tomorrow. We've been doing it for about, I guess, almost 3 years now. We came out with the demo as you again summarized, and then just immediately started working on writing the album, and have kind of just been working on it and workshopping it and going through all the different stages and yeah, now it's finally out tomorrow, which is pretty wild because we worked on it for so long and yeah, pretty psyched about it. Yeah, we play death metal and I guess the way I would describe it, I know there's a lot of like sub genres within the subgenre or whatever, but try not to pay too much attention to that, and just kind of play the type of death metal that we want to play, the music that we like or the music that we want to hear, like when I'm writing riffs for the band, I'm really trying to listen, like what would I want to hear? Like if I was, watching this band play, like what do I want to hear? I try to translate that, I guess. So it's sort of like a like an out of body writing, an intentional out of body experience, kind of like lucid dreaming, but you're awake. But I guess because it's death metal, it's kind of more like a horror movie. It would be like, trying to replicate like a lucid nightmare, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, like for people watching this, tomorrow is today. The
Yeah.
album is out now. So
Today.
it's today. Yeah. Yeah, because like
Okay.
we're in the past, but the album is out when this is on today. So
Yeah.
people don't get confused. They're like, oh, it's Saturday. No, 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 it's on Friday.
Yeah.
So yeah, you explained that fairly well. So uh the yeah, I think death metal and horror go hand in hand. So tell us a little bit about some of the themes that you talk about in this record.
Um, I guess obviously like the record has it's sort of I mean, it's expelling a lot of energy, it's like any album or like any music or art. It's sort of like a reflection of of your own perception, or hopefully like a perception, a reflection of the world. And obviously, we living in some dark times. Not that I would point to any particular time in human history and be like, oh yeah, this was fucking great, you know. Um, but we're really like inundated, I guess, with reality, in that, like, at the same time we're sitting down and doing this interview, like, how many countless atrocities are occurring, right now, like as we speak, and not that you necessarily need to hang on to that every second of every day or you'd go fucking insane, but I mean in a way we do, we are inundated, with the way communication works now, with the way cell phones and social media have changed our perception of the world. We're sort of confronted with horrible things, like on a constant basis. And in addition to, what we face in our own lives, like it's not just like in the broad sense, like, oh, everything is terrible there here or everything's terrible there. It's like also about, like, our own lives and, the lives of the people around us and the struggles that everybody faces, like it's not just like I don't want to be like, oh, it's political or whatever, like obviously there's a lot of political implications and stuff, but there's also, in addition to songs about war, there's songs about crimes of passion, like it's like it's not just everything, it's like, in a grand scheme of things, like things, negative things and stuff like that, like it affects people personally, people crack, under the pressure of things. And I guess in a way, this is a reflection of that, in a sense, the way that people enjoy, a horror movie because, it sort of allows you to like exercise some of your fears, like maybe that's what we're doing musically, you know what I mean? Like that we just like there's so much fucked up shit out there that it has to come back out there, Um, and yeah, I guess like there's a lot of ugliness in the world, in a broad sense. But yeah, like again, in a smaller sense as well, like your morning commute to work, if you're sitting in traffic or, you're taking public transportation, you're on the train, you see a lot of weird shit. You see humanity in a very weird state, I guess you could say. Um, and all of that, all sorts of different frustrations, not just, sociological or political, but like, just regular day-to-day like it's frustrating to wake up in the morning and go to work, like everything sort of, comes together. And we're making this music, like in spite of that, partially because we're musicians, we feel compelled to play music, but we're also sort of maybe exercising these things from our subconscious. Um, and yeah, I guess that's what the record's about. Yeah.
Phil, so also, yeah, tell, you play, how many instruments do you play on this record? Because I think there's the bass, you play some synths, guitar. I think there's something I'm leaving behind.
Yeah, bass, all the guitars. Chris plays drums, and Chris plays synth as well. And I did some synth on the record as well. We both did that. On the demo. The synth was mostly Chris. It's a rhythm, instrument, keys. Technically, he's the rhythm section. But I did some keys as well, and I did the vocals as well. And then we both, arranged and produced as well, I guess you could say. So, not that that's producing isn't necessarily an instrument, but it's like sort of observing the project as a whole and shaping it,
It's important because badly produced record can make it can make a difference from a
Right.
good produced record. Uh, so yeah, the themes, I think it's interesting, especially like the type of topics that you're going like. See, what I themes are go well with horror themes.
Yeah. It's definitely like in a horror context in a lot of ways, I guess, because I guess you could say that there's like a certain amount of you know, theater in that, like it is sort of theatrical in a way to make a record, to perform a show, you know. So I guess that context, and we're big fans of, film and, media and stuff like that. So I'm sure that like plays a part, more than we realize, I guess. But I guess that's a cool takeaway, that I guess you're saying it has like sort of a dark cinematic perspective, I guess you could say. Um,
It gives it like an eerie flavor to it. So the album, like I was wondering, every time I talk to artists like about their influences, like so you growing up, what artists got you into this type of music?
um, I would say a lot of it was like, like the local punk scene was really is big here. Hardcore is huge in New Jersey. They love that shit here. And um, I guess I started going to shows. I guess it's the late '90s. And at the time, there were record distros and zines and all that shit. If you wanted to hear a band, you had to buy the 7-inch. So there's a lot, you were taking a lot of chances, you didn't always know what you were looking for, like most of the bands were, covering Cro-Mags and stuff like that, playing Youth Crew and stuff, which I love all that stuff, obviously. But then, when you're flipping through the records and you see a record, you're like, whoa, this looks crazy, or you read about a band in a zine, that's like basically how I discovered, grindcore, through just like finding stuff that was faster and faster and faster. And then like, eventually somebody gave me a Terrorizer CD, World Downfall, when borrowing CDs was still a thing, and they were like, okay, you need to listen to this. I was in high school and I heard World Downfall and I was just like, oh my God, dude, my life is ruined. No. Uh, um, so yeah, yeah, I guess, I mean, obviously also Metallica obviously had a huge, they were one of the biggest bands in the world, seeing their progression, I was still a kid when, Load and Reload came out, and I was young enough to be like bothered by the fact that they cut their hair and stopped playing fast, like I was like, "Oh my God, Metallica with short hair, like this fucking sucks." And I was, heartbroken, because I loved Metallica so much. And then I
I,
guess it was just neat. What's that?
I was in high school when that came out, so almost so. Yeah, I don't think it bothered me that much, but
I was so bothered by it for no reason, I guess, because like I mean, although personally I would say when I go and see metal bands, so-called extreme metal bands, like I do enjoy seeing certain, theatrics. I do like seeing a band with long hair or people looking, you know, rocked out, I guess you could say. Like there is like an element to it that I guess I held on to from the Metallica Load debate, I guess it really influenced me. I'm still on the side of don't cut your hair, you know. And then they also kind of like were into like that like there was this like aesthetic in the 90s that was like very inspired by like the 1950s. You know what I mean? Like they were into like some like greaser shit and those big microphones and shit.
yeah,
They got into that and I was like, what the hell is this? Like, what's that?
I blame you two. I think you two started that trend.
YouTube? That's what or was it? I don't know where it came from. I don't know how it came back. Now, I don't even know how to refer to it as like a period of music, even though it's something that's not really discussed. It really dominated like the late 90s into the early 2000s. Uh, We usually just call it 90s daddy-o style. Like everybody became like a daddy-o and was really into like, you know, having like martini glasses in their artwork and like, like poker aesthetics or something like, which is fine, which is cool, I guess, like all that stuff is, you know, if you want to play cards and drink martinis, like go ahead, live that life, most of the men in my family are big card players, like they love that shit. I'm more just into, music and being a nerd, I guess, but like, I don't know. Metallica got into that. They cut their hair, they got all daddy-oed out. It was big in hardcore too. Like people were wearing like creepers and all that stuff, and like then one day it just disappeared, like one day, musical historians are gonna come up with a name for like 90s daddy-o.
And Mark, I think there's a band that still thinks they're living in that Dario era, and it's Volbeat.
Colby?
Volbeat, yeah. To me, they have that look that they look like they're yeah. I've never been able to get into them, but we're here to talk about contusion.
Not about daddy-o culture.
Dario culture. Well, you think about it, and then you had that Lou Vega with Mambo Number Five. So there's your daddy. I never thought of it that way, but yeah, those like
It's a stranglehold, the
90,
daddy-o style.
96 to 98, and there was a lot of swing music being
Yeah.
popular. I don't know why, but yeah, that's true. That's like my least favorite era of the 90s when that happened.
Yeah. Yeah. When everybody became daddy-os.
Adios. Yeah, and I'm sure you're not. Never, I don't think that's ever gonna happen again. So,
You
uh,
never know. Maybe now it's so unpopular that like that's kind of cool. Like maybe that's like an individual. Like I think not to keep talking about daddy-o culture, but I think like maybe like the Stray Cats or somebody like that like started doing something like that, but when they did it, it was like tough, like they were like Australian ruffians, or is that where they're from? Or, like maybe
uh,
they like it seemed like they were like really rockers, like they were like really about it, which is kind of cool to just to be about some weird shit. But when it became a whole thing and Mambo number five and everything like that, no, that's where it went real south real quick.
yeah, Mark. When I was gonna talk to Contusion, I never would have dreamed that I would talk about Mambo Number Five. So, but it's good. This is good to talk about.
Places that you'll go when you're on the couch.
You're chilling on the couch.
I'm on the couch.
Yeah. So, the album. There's my favorite tracks. I like Countless Atrocities, which can be about, there's so many atrocities that can be, and also the singles that you, Subjugation and Throne of Skulls. But I want to ask you this, Mark, for this type of music, it's gotta be hard to pick a single.
Yeah.
Like when you're picking a single, what do you look for in a song that you're like, yeah, this has to be the first song that people listen to from this material?
Um, I honestly don't know. Like, I guess a lot of that is like, I don't know anything about like marketing and stuff like that. And I kind of prefer to not know that end of things because I would rather just be on the artistic side. But I guess like with this, it just seemed like Throne of Skulls was the first song, was the first single that we released. It seemed like it had a lot of different elements that were highlighted on the record. Like there's blasting, but it's not all blasting. It's got a riff that you might be able to like. It's discernible to the ear. It's not just blazing past. You know, I thought that the tempo sat at a pretty good spot. Also, um, yeah, I just thought it would be like sort of a microcosm for the album. It had a little bit of everything. And then with the second single with Subjugation, that just seemed to be it was a song that we've been playing live for a while now, for well over a year, because we were playing it at last year's Maryland Death Fest. So we've definitely been playing it for a while now, and just people seem to respond to it. The first time that we actually played it was at this show in Richmond, and we're playing our set, and then we're like, okay, it's time for the new one. There's this dude who was just circling the pit the entire time, just waiting for the right time, I guess. And then just we're like, all right, new song, one, two, three, four. Just went into the riff, and as soon as we started playing the riff, the guy just like loses his mind and just starts punching people in the face. I think he punched our friend in the face. But, that's what we were like. As soon as we started playing the riff the first time, people reacted to it. And I was like, okay, maybe there's something to this then. That's like almost a different reason because that song sounds almost nothing like the rest of the songs on the record. And yeah, and the song structure is different than most of the other songs. Like, I guess Throne of Skulls is kind of more of like a microcosm of everything we did on the record, and then Subjugation is like, here's everything else. We're not just one thing. You can't quite sum it up, or I don't know, maybe you can. I guess there wasn't really a ton of logic to it. I guess there's just a bunch of thoughts and ideas. I don't know if I were they the right choices? I don't know. I don't think about a record in terms of like singles and stuff. I was thinking about it as like one cohesive statement. The rest is for, I guess the label can sort it out.
Yeah, I also think that way, maybe because I'm from the 90s, that I love the experience of a record. And is your friend okay? The
Yeah,
one
he was all right. He was all right.
yeah, that's why I don't go to mosh pits anymore. I don't like to be hit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't find it fun. Like usually when I put my elbows here so they don't hit me, plus I have glasses and I want to keep my teeth. But yeah, at that festival, I have some friends that have been to that Maryland Death Festival, and they tell me it's pretty awesome times. So you had that song, you've been playing it for a while, and from your first like the demo, and not the demo, the EP that you had to this album, how much would you say has changed or evolved to the sound of Contusion?
Well, I guess on the demo, it's like we hadn't even played a show yet when we
Oh,
recorded. We were just jamming out ideas, and eventually we were like, all right, this is the demo, let's just do it. And then let's put it out, let's start playing shows, you know. And I guess, the experience of forming a new band, of going out on tour, playing different cities, playing different countries, seeing how people respond, just being in the van for hours with the rest of the band, just talking about music, talking about everything. And also, once you have a record out and you're looking at it, there's a lot of hindsight involved, like you're like, oh, maybe we should do this differently, or, we weren't really interested in making the same record twice or just making a longer version of the same record. But at the same time, we didn't want to throw away what we were building towards either. We're kind of like, I guess, like expanding on an idea, you could say, but just so much life, so much happens in 3 years. You'd be surprised. Like think about all that's changed in your personal life between now and 3 years. People who aren't here anymore, places that you used to go every day that you probably haven't seen. Like a lot of life happens. Like even in the macro sense, like we got fucking Donald Trump again. Like shit, so many things can change in such a small amount of time, and that can influence. It's really hard to even quantify. um and you kind of just take all those influences, and then you're like, how can we make this evil as fuck? you know how can we how can we not lose sight on keeping it evil, you know?
There's
Uh,
there's a lot of inspiration. And yes, about Donald Trump, but at least South Park got him.
yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it, but I heard that it was
It's funny as hell.
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's incredible, like things that happen and like all that. And I know that you guys are two people in the band, but where you go play live, you have other musicians that play live. Would you ever consider like maybe some of those musicians form the band, not form the band, join the band permanently?
Yeah, we're not opposed to it, you know. Basically, you know, the two of us have just been the core of the band. It's been like a practical sense, you know, like it's very difficult getting more than two people into a room at any different time, you know, like as anybody who's in a band knows. Um, and we've had different people play, you know, and everybody chooses their own involvement, I guess you could say, you know. Does everybody would have to be, you know, just on the same page, you know, and this is kind of just how it developed. We weren't like, we're just going to keep this a two-person thing, and that it's just kind of like, this is just what's been working for us so far. But I mean, I don't want to play all the instruments on the record. You know, I mean, I also would like, you know, I would like to play live as a four piece. I think like that would be the final form. We usually play as three. We played one show as four, and trying to get back to that. Um, but yeah, I mean, it just depends on, you know, we're working on, I mean, you know, this record's about to come out, so we already have to start working on the next one. You know, but I mean, the gears are always turning anyway, you know. And I guess it's just once it comes time to get in the studio, we'll see where everybody's at and what makes sense and who wants to be a part of it and who, you know, because we're again we're like a very new band, you know, like we've been a band for like 3 years, but you know, we are you know, we have like we're pretty hardworking, I guess, as a band, and we have a lot of goals, you know. But it's hard when you're at the level that we're at, you know, like how are you gonna match like my level of like enthusiasm and emotional involvement with the band when it's like, well, me and Chris started the band and have done fucking everything and have been like clawing the band into existence, you know, and so much time and energy has been put into it already, you know, that for somebody to jump into that and be like, yeah, I'm on this level, I'm rocking with that, when we don't have like the means to financially support another individual in the band, you know, in a full-time sense, you know, obviously when we're all playing gigs, you know, everybody, you know, gets theirs, but like, you know, in a full band member sense, it is like a big commitment, I guess. We're just at that phase in our career. Again, the record's that just out today, our first album. Who knows how that'll change or affect how we're perceived or how well we do or you know there's just like a lot of factors, but yes, we're down to have more people in the band for sure.
Yeah, when I see like, I always wonder how the hell did Slipknot get 9 people supporting schedules?
Yeah, I have no idea. I have
And
no idea, but they
how
did
did
it.
they get paid at the beginning? Because 9 people, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Uh, so I know the album it streamed, and people got to hear it early streaming. Were you present when it started streaming, like to chat with people?
What do you mean? Like
Oh, because the albums they streamed it, I think
yeah.
today. That
Mhm.
are the best. Were you able? to attend the streaming to see what people were commenting?
Uh, I don't know if there were any events or anything. It was kind of more just like you stream it on your phone. I mean, the
That's
record
interesting.
release, the record release, the record release celebration was technically at Obscene Extreme a week ago.
Oh,
In Czech Republic, we did have records. We were able to get them early. They're pressed in the Czech Republic, so we were able to get them for that show. So we did have, we did have CDs and vinyl available, and but I guess people weren't just listening to them at the festival. People didn't have like record players in their tents or anything. Uh, but I've been played the records for my friends, like that's as close as it gets, I guess, to a listening party.
so friends can give you like the what they think. So I'm gonna show the artwork because I haven't showed the artwork. So we can talk all about the artwork, which is pretty, uh it's all red and black, and there's like a skeleton face right there, right?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about first of all, who made the art and what you were going for.
So this the main drawing was done by an artist out of Canada who goes by Rotting Rain. That's his artist name. He's been doing he's done a lot of stuff for I guess a number of I guess underground black metal bands, I guess was originally how I first saw his stuff. He does a lot of paintings as well. Um, and I guess what we're trying to convey, was a sense of, yeah, just a general sense of horror, you know. Um, I guess in a way, the blank stare of the figure on the cover, is could be viewed as being like to uh reacting to like a harsh landscape or or a violent reality, and therefore becomes a product of that and then responds with a cold stare. Um, right, yeah, Rotting Rain, he does a lot of really cool stuff. Obviously, this is a drawing, a pen and ink drawing that he did. And I guess there's also just in terms of aside from the symbolism, like I guess like aesthetically in terms of like a record cover, like I always picture vinyl, a square vinyl record, for an album. And like there is a history of just evil ass fucking faces looking awesome on a record. In a way, it's kind of classic. And I guess in a sense that's part of what we do. We do take, inspiration from the past, but we just kind of we do our own thing with it. Like there's in the oldest one that comes to mind is that King Crimson album with a close up of the face. It just says so much. I think there's just something so telling about a face. People tend to, react to it and respond to it. Like you look at that image and you could get an idea that of some of the themes of the album, that it's not all sunshine and lollipops.
You can tell by that this will not sound like Air Supply.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can tell that it's death metal, but yeah, I think it's a cool artwork and the red with the black. For people who want to get the album, I'll put the link for Profound Lore. Is the vinyl going to be available already, or is it?
Yeah, you can already it was already available for pre-order, or available from us live at at our shows, surprisingly. people who showed up were like, "What the fuck?" Like, I didn't know you guys had this, and we're like, "Well, we do." So there you go. So some people ended up with it earlier than others. But yeah, it's available now. Profound Lore has awesome distribution. They have, distribution in Europe. They have. I'm not sure who does distribution in Puerto Rico. Um,
It must be the same people who do distribution in the US.
yeah, it might be the same distribution. They're based. Profound Lore is based in Canada. But yeah, he Chris does a really good job of getting stuff all over the place. Like I know it's like generally accessible without crazy shipping because he has a lot of different places where he stores stuff, and he just in general does an awesome job. Profound Lore, this is the first time that we've worked with them. We didn't really even know each other. We just started emailing. Like we had never met. We still haven't met in person, but this has been like a really great experience. It's a really good label. Chris is like really, really on top of his shit, and he really gives a fuck, which is very rare, and very supportive to whatever we wanted to do. He was like, "All right, do it," like which is cool. And that's one of the things, our friends who worked with him were telling us. They're like, he's got your back, and he will respond to your emails, and it's just been a really good experience, and I'm really happy because yeah, I mean, we put a lot of hard work into it, and it's just cool that he's matching that energy, and he's putting time and energy into it, and resources, and just been a really awesome stand-up dude. I don't have more good shit to say about him. I mean, he's really he's done well by us so far. So yeah, support him, buy his shit. But our record is available from Profound Lore. He's got a bunch of other shit. He's got Antichrist Siege Machine. Morpheus Descends, Left Cross. A lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, and it's good that there's a record label that you don't care about the artist and obviously supports and it's in it with you and shows you the same enthusiasm. So I know you guys just played some shows, I think some in Europe, some in the States. Where are the next shows for people who want to see Contusion live?
We're in the process of booking some more shows in the U.S. The last shows we did a West Coast tour, and we played Vancouver as well. And then we just got back from Europe and the UK, and now we are in the process of booking more shows on the US on the East Coast, and some in the Midwest. And then, yeah, we'd like to continue doing some international stuff, like, going back to Europe would be awesome. We literally just got back a week ago, so we're like, everything is in the process. I'd love to play Puerto Rico. That'd be cool. Hook it up, go down there,
I know
play.
that I know some promoters here.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'd love to play Mexico as well. We really would like to go play Japan. Um, so yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it. It's just one thing is that it just takes way longer to book things these days. Like I feel like in the past, you'd be like, okay, we're gonna go on tour in like 3 months, and it's like, okay, it's July, so we're gonna announce a tour for October. You know what I mean? It's like it ain't like that anymore. It's like stuff needs to be booked like 6 months out now. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like it's summer right now, but everything that we're setting up is like towards the end of 2025. Just to get a hold on the spaces that we want. So But yeah, we're gonna be back out there. We're gonna be all over the place, basically, you know.
I'll post the link, people, so they can follow you and know when you
Yeah.
guys are playing. So, Mark, it's been great to chat with you this first day evening, the pre-evening of the release
Yes.
of your debut full length. Uh,
Yeah.
the album title, Insatiable Lust for Death.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
doesn't get more death metal than that.
Yeah. I hope so. Yeah. It conveys, a lot of different things. Obviously, the initial influence for that. I mean, people say at funerals, for example, about somebody who's recently deceased, they'll say, "Oh, they had an insatiable lust for life." That's something people say. I feel like when they eulogize them.
Because of Iggy Pop.
Yeah. But it's like on the converse side of that, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, if you have an insatiable lust for death, that could mean many things. In this sense, it could mean an insatiable lust for death metal. You know what I mean? And I always appreciated when metal is referential to itself, when heavy metal talks about himself itself, like Manowar, stuff like that. When heavy metal references itself, it's always cool, Cyanide, Death Metal Maniac. I always thought that was kind of a cool thing. But then it also works for the themes of the record as well, because it almost seems like that it's an insatiable lust for death and destruction that's driving you know, this world in the direction that it's going. It's like the people who are really running shit and owning shit, they fucking love death. And they'll kill as many fucking people as they can in order to make themselves more, richer and more powerful. So they have an insatiable lust for death, which in turn gives us an insatiable lust for death because we just need death metal. So it's it means many things. It's open to interpretations. Heavy metal, it's life, it's death, it's war, it's evil. It's hard to be evil on the couch though, when you're just chilling on the couch with the chill dude on the couch. It's hard to be evil, but yet here we are, we persist in evil.
Persist in the evil. It could be an evil couch. So, Mark,
Yeah,
thank you for taking some time of your night to chat with me,
yeah, man.
uh, all about Contusion and the album. So, before I let you go, anything you like to say to the fans before we go?
Um, Come see us when we come to your town. Check out the record, and yeah, we'll see you soon. And we'll be keeping it evil.
So, Couchers, Contusion, the album is out now. Insatiable, Lost for Death. So, until next time, Couchers, this is Hector, the Shield Dude on a Couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank you and goodbye.